the plan for today is I am going to be doing a multiple show, multiple stream, uh, spooky show, spooky related content throughout the day. So this could either be 3 or 4 separate streams, probably an hour in length per stream. So if that's something that interests you, then come by and watch the streams. I'm sure different times throughout the day, we'll have a different amount of people. This is pretty early on a Sunday morning, so whoever makes it in, happy Halloween, and I hope you guys enjoy some of these stories. Now, this first story, well, I wouldn't describe it as being spooky. I would describe it as being downright gut wrenchingly disgusting, morbid, and under the true crime realm. Now, with the multiple streams today, we will be doing paranormal, we'll be doing mysteries, we'll be doing unsolved mystery murders. We're gonna cover the gambit of all different kinds of categories. But I've had this story for about a week now, and I wanted to tell it. And some of you guys may have heard of this story already. So first, I just want to point out to everybody, and I'm not being an advocate on this. The United States, is number 4 in orphaned children because of what they say is COVID. About 270,000 to 400,000 orphan children because of parents getting COVID, parents being separated, parents losing jobs and not being able to support their children. The infrastructure is falling around us. This is truly a spooky time to be living. If you really think about it, you're a child who grew up and you're 2 to 3 years old when the pandemic hits, and within 6 months' time, you're an orphan into a system that's depleted of its workers because of work vaccine mandates and whatever other politics come into play. So we're seeing multiple children being displaced, and this is how things like child trafficking happen. This is how things like kidnappings and sending kids overseas to live with their new mommies and daddies. Some not even, like, I'm not even saying some of these aren't. There might be a couple of heartfelt stories in there that a kid got help that didn't have parents and they found new parents. Of course. But if you look at the medical institutions, if you look at the state run institutions that would take in an orphan child, they're depleted of resources completely. They're depleted of employees. And they've never seen record high numbers of orphaned or abandoned children. Because these aren't just orphaned. I mean, we're talking abandoned children. And the stream today is specifically about a case in Texas of 3 abandoned children. One being found in skeletal remains. Yeah, you heard that correctly. A mother abandoned her children in a home to fend for themselves. A 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, and I believe an 8-year-old. So what says they are black? Well, the ones on the screen, well, they're doing a world. This is a worldwide um, United God's Work website that just tells you, as of right now, an estimate is that there's 132 million worldwide orphaned or abandoned children in the world. The United States comes in fourth. And we know the United States and how they deal in child trafficking. And I told you guys that, you know, what a heartfelt story that Pfizer brought in some of these children. I mean, how nice. Let's all praise Pfizer. They brought in some of these children to help them out and give them a vaccine and give them vaccine trials. Kids as young as 6 months old that were orphaned or abandoned. Pfizer really went out of their way to help these children and bring them in and give them the medicine they needed. So when you have a system, and we'll call it the U.S., the corporation of the U.S., that is completely broken down right now, and you have a record number of orphaned and abandoned children, this is where the world's evils will come. This is where the world evils will rendezvous, like vultures trying to get their hands on these children for their sexual operations or whatever else they want to do with these kids. If they're just in the business of selling them, if they're in the business of transporting them, or if they're actually in the business of filming and sexually molesting these children. Yep, I did pick this one as the first spooky story. So I know it doesn't really classify as a Halloween type spooky Sunday, but like I said, we're gonna have about 4 of these streams today. I also called out for some guests that might just pop on randomly out of nowhere and tell a spooky tale or two and then get out of here. There's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be Halloween themed, but this is just the first one of the day and a story that I just want to tell. Now, the U.S. is number 4 in ranked orphan children. But I want to know which countries have the most abandoned and orphan children COVID. Let's see if we get a list, because I know the US is number 4. Someone says, what's new with Ghislaine? There's a lot of documents to read through. A lot of documents to read through. It looks like India may top the list. I'm just gonna pull this article up and maybe they'll tell us. This is just for information, just so we know. How's everybody doing in the chat? What are you guys' plans for Halloween today? I know some of you guys have children, so I'm sure some trick or treating is in order. Do people have Halloween parties to go to? What's up? What are you guys doing today? This specific spooky show is going to be the most relaxed and kind of chill, if you will. It's early morning. I usually work every Sunday, so I got to sleep in, and I'm having my first cup of coffee. So just bear with me that I'm kind of giving a kind of chill attitude for a very serious crime that I'm gonna be showing you guys shortly. But I do like to talk to people in the chat, as we got 50 people already in here for a morning stream. Last night we had about 150 people, and all those streams are up on Odysee and Bitchute. So what says he's drinking? Diligently says every day is Halloween. Well, that's just not true. Whiskey Bad says drinks. Someone's gonna eat a 500 milligram brownie in a little bit. I'm not big on the brownies, but I used to work with a guy named Asat, and he would make Fruity Pebble Rice Krispie treat edibles. And man, as soon as you got to work at 7 in the morning and downed one of these things, he would never tell you the amount that was in there, but it was enough that you were on cloud nine. And everyone took them. It didn't, like, because he did not label them as, that they had pot in them. He just said, here's some delicious Fruity Pebble Rice Krispie treats. Now, I knew they had weed in them, and I obviously took them, but everyone in the store would eat one, so everyone, some people that never smoked in their life to some people that were against smoking, everyone would get high those days, and they were really fun. Let's see. Warfus says, I'm targeting those I've been stalking all year. Wish me luck. Ooh. Wait a second. A gang stalker amongst us. I don't know about that. I was looking at Spooky Sunday Season 1. Now, these Spooky Sunday videos, these Halloween specials are going to go on Spooky Sunday Season 2, which is a channel that I just made a couple of days ago, and it has one video on it. So, the real videos are going to start around November 15th for the 26 episode season of the new Spooky Sunday season. And I also have the protest for the anti-mandate on the 27th. So, U.S. is number 4 in the world with the most orphaned children by COVID deaths. Now, it's not just because of COVID deaths, it's COVID related. Of those children, okay. Before the pandemic stripped the world of millions of people, there were about 140 orphaned children globally. Now, an additional 1.5 million kids have lost their parents. So it doubled in a year. So think of the infrastructure that supports 1.5 million kids orphaned in 1 year for all time. That this is all they've had. That's what they've had to deal with. And then in 1 year, the exact same number or more are orphaned or abandoned. Of these children, at the time of this, 114,000 were from the U.S. That number has jumped to about 140 to 170,000. Based on what researchers have learned from Ebola and HIV epidemics, orphan children face high risk of short and long-term negative effects on their health, safety, and well-being after losing caregivers. That's why the researchers say experts need to respond quickly. Listen to this. Every 12 seconds, a child under the age of 18 loses a caregiver. Every 12 seconds, a child under the age of 18 loses a caregiver. That's a haunting statistic. And from my perspective, and as you guys feel and feel deep in your heart and feel adamantly about this, we know these children aren't being helped. Some of them, of course, if they have money and and they're in wealthy areas, and that they can get some help. But we know that there's many pockets of America that these kids are going to be. I mean, how else do you say it? Thrown away like trash. Yeah, five times per minute. Hmm. So it didn't give me a list of the countries, but if the U.S. is number 4, that's why I was curious about that, because I would think they would like mention like maybe Mexico, or sorry, yeah, Mexico, right? Yeah, Mexico. Um, I'm just trying to think of countries that they may mention, and they don't do it per capita. I think they're doing it. So I just don't know. I just don't know. Uh, Warvis says, I wonder if Mersh will do a Halloween show tonight. I'm not sure, but Titus Frost did a show on Dlive last night about ghost ships, and it was very interesting. And I never knew Titus Frost was into the paranormal. Out of all my chats with him, I've been on stream with him several times. He knows I have a spooky show channel. Like we've talked about spooky stuff. Like he was a legit like ghost hunter researcher, and like had experiences on these expeditions he would go on these abandoned boats and all this stuff. And I'm like, how did I never? Maybe he's mentioned it before and I just didn't see it, but I had no idea. So shout out to Titus Frost for being a. Oh, he doesn't do it anymore, but for being a paranormal researcher. I mean that's pretty fucking cool. And the stream was great. He had great stories. Abandoned ship stories are great stories. So, um, let's just say we get into today's topic, and that is 3 children and skeletal remains found in an abandoned Texas apartment. So, out of these 140,000 abandoned children in the United States, there's going to be multiple stories like this.
We got information about this particular unit, and when they arrived, they discovered 3 juveniles just at plain view. It appears they're living in pretty deplorable conditions. At first glance, they haven't gone in there to do a thorough scene investigation at this point. But again, our hearts break for those 3. I mean, they're still children, and for the one that has passed away. We'd like to identify who are the parents, adults, next of kin are, just so we'd like to know exactly what we have here. In our experience, it's always best to not speculate and just let the investigation take its course. But very disturbing sets of circumstances, so we definitely want some answers for these children. It appears that they were basically fending for each other, which is very sad. Again, we have a 15-year-old, a 10 and 7, and I think the older sibling was basically doing the best he could to take care of the others. And again, the deceased one, or the skeletal remains, we believe at this point it's going to be another juvenile, possibly a sibling that passed away. And it appears the skeletal remains have been there for an extended period of time. So
the skeletal remains were of an 8-year-old child, and yes, they were all siblings.
it just connecting all the dots at this point. It seems that they were in there while the body was deteriorating. There appear to be some food, so we don't know where they were getting that food or who was leaving it. But again, we haven't done a full search yet of the entire apartment, so we don't know. But I do want to emphasize this does not appear to be a short-term kind of situation. It appears to have been ongoing now for quite a long time. All in all, I think that they seem to be holding up okay. I mean, physically, from what we see, one may have some injuries, but I'm not going to go to the extent of the injuries at this point. But they're all being checked out at this point, so we'll make sure that they're doing okay, both physically and emotionally as best we can, and give them the support that they need.
So this was initial response, day one, showing up on the scene, October 24th. They get a call, a wellness check. A neighbor calls, says something's going on. We have not seen these children's parents. The children's mother is really the one that's under the microscope here. But kids going around asking neighbors for food, kids sleeping outside, just a lot of weird red flags that people in the area started calling the police, and the police finally came over and investigated and found 3 abandoned children and skeleton remains of a 4th person, possibly a child that is a child, were found at the apartment complex in Houston. Just sad all around. Now, I'm going to have interviews with the neighbors. I'm going to have interviews with the sister of the mother, who tried for years to get these children away from the mother. Other family friends that do interviews, neighbors. I have a lot of information on this. So at first, the mother and boyfriend were released without charge after her 3 abandoned starving children, 7, 10, and 15, were found locked inside a Houston apartment next to decomposing remains of their 9-year-old brother who had been dead for a year. This was initially. She has since been locked up, and he's been locked up, and the accounts that I'm going to tell you are going to be absolutely disgusting. Somebody says, so she was torturing the kids. Well, leaving kids, and I think the 15-year-old, maybe 16, I don't know if they had all the information right. Again, these are initial reports, and I'm going to get to more recent reports. But the oldest child was literally the parent of these children. So, do you want to call it torturing? I would call abandoning your children in a household with no food torturing them. I would call it that. But it's way worse than that. I mean, there's skeletal remains found. So as the investigation goes on, you'll understand how it became skeletal remains. The 3 siblings and the remains were found at 3535 Greencrest in Houston after police were asked to do a simple welfare check. A 15-year-old boy called 911, saying his 9-year-old brother had been dead for a year and his remains were in a room next to his. The children were living in deplorable conditions and had likely been left abandoned for several months. We know now that this was over a year that they were abandoned. over a year. Um, Now, at age 15, could you survive with also having two other siblings to care for? You'd find a way. You do your best. You'd get a job. You'd find any money that you could. You feed them anything you could, but nobody should be put under that. The children's mother and boyfriend were located and interviewed by cops before being released without charges. Now, I believe the being released without charges was the investigation wasn't fully done and the pieces weren't really fully together. And you had the mother lying and the boyfriend lying, and to throw charges out at that point may have been frivolous and hurt them down the line. Waiting 3 days, doing an investigation, getting your facts right, then making the arrest, I think was the smart move. And unlike, Brian Enton, they kept surveillance on these people. They weren't going anywhere. A sheriff spokesperson said in an email that charges are pending. So they were planning on charging them. This wasn't something like, yeah, you're released, you're gonna get away. Connecting all the dots, it seems they were in there while the body was deteriorating. Next door neighbor said she first noticed a foul odor coming from the siblings' apartment 13 or 14 months ago. So this is well over a year ago. And repeatedly complained about it. Homicide investigators, along with CPS and child abuse investigators, are also working the case. A Houston mother and her boyfriend were questioned and released without any charges after a woman's three starving children, ages 7, 10, and 15, were found living alone in an apartment. The siblings and the skeletal remains were found at 3535 Greencrest on this day at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday. The Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said that the three brothers, were living without adult supervision for months, year, in deplorable conditions, and the body of the dead child was on full display, prompting repeated complaints about a terrible smell. On Monday, the sheriff announced that the couple was released without being charged with a crime. No explanation was provided for the decision to let the kids go. Now, I can tell you the decision to let the parents, I said kids, the decision to let the parents go was obviously to monitor them, surveil them, build your charges, and probably go through all text and cell phone records and see what they're saying during those couple days and nailing them on everything. I mean, not to spoil it, but the husband and the boyfriend are in jail, and we'll get to the crimes of why they are in jail. And it's not just abandoning your children. It's much sicker. So it says released without charges. This was the initial interview with them. Within 2 days, there was already charges being filed behind the scenes. They had a full scope on this. They had everyone under surveillance. They might have gave the parents a false, like a false sense of, ooh, we might have got away with this. Obviously, monitoring them and then coming with the actual charges. They needed to investigate to find out what actual charges were coming down. You don't want to charge someone for abandoning a child when you'll see later in the stream what they're actually being charged with on top of abandoning children. Now, neighbors helped starving siblings, 7, 10, and 15, survive by bringing them food and charging their cell phone after power was cut off. Residents complained of sickening smell from Houston horror home where kids live next to their decomposing brother. A neighbor brought the siblings food and charged their phone. Now, something weird about the children, and specifically the youngest one, they keep saying 7. He's 8 years old. He would go to the next door neighbor's house and ask for food, and the neighbor would have dinner made and say, yeah, please, you can come in and go through the cupboards, and you can eat anything you want. We have this fresh cooked. The 8-year-old would not eat anything that was homemade because he was scared of being poisoned. So the atrocities these kids witnessed, the abuse that they endured, for an 8-year-old to have the thought in his mind that a neighbor trying to help him may also poison him, shows you the paranoia and the conditions these kids were living in. The mother and the boyfriend left the children alone for a year, according to law enforcement. The 3 children were taken to the hospital for treatment, and an autopsy is being conducted on the 4th child, the skeletal remains, because they have to determine the cause of death. Was it simply that he starved to death? We'll find out later. An unidentified Good Samaritan who lived nearby apartment brought the 3 children food and charged their phones after the electricity was cut in their houses. It's not clear why she didn't report the neglected kids to police or Child Protective Service. And if an adult was bringing them food to eat, they must have seen that child, a fellow local resident said. And I have an interview with that neighbor on why she kind of explains why she didn't report it. Because she just didn't know. Like, a kid just says he's hungry. Do you immediately call the police? I mean, I think I would, but not everyone does, and not everyone's in the same neighborhood. This isn't your like suburb. This isn't the best place to be. So a child starving could have both parents in the household, or a single parent in the household and be starving. So some people do not want to interject themselves into that. And I understand. Someone says rich neighborhood. They had a maid? No. What are you talking about? Someone says possible that the kids were fed their dead sibling. No. No evidence of that yet. I don't think it resorted to cannibalism. But again, the 8-year-old would only eat prepackaged meals. Law enforcement officials said that several neighbors were helping the 3 children. According to investigators, the 15-year-old said that the parents hadn't been living at home for weeks, effectively abandoning the children to be on their own. Now, this is like a Stockholm Syndrome type thing, because we know the child had been dead for 12 to 14 months, so they were abandoned for a year, not a couple weeks. The younger boys appeared to be really malnourished and showed signs of physical injury, so they were still being abused from time to time. From my understanding, the mom would show up maybe once a month, and maybe drop off like some oodles and noodles or something and do just whatever sick shit she was doing inside the house with the kids has not been released. The older sibling, and this is what I think we can all relate to, um, was doing his best. He could, a 15-year-old. You know, imagine you at 15. You know, I know most of us at 15 had a longer leash and more responsibilities and were expected more of. But a modern day 15-year-old did his best to take care of the others. On Monday, the sheriff announced that the couple was released without being arrested. We've played this, but I just wanted to give you that quick story. But again, 13 or 14 months ago, the odor of the decomposing child was found. So they may have been released, but House of Horror Mothers and her gangster wannabe boyfriend. I don't know why that just came off the screen. Give me 2 seconds here. Shams the cat has it correct. Once a month, or once or twice a month to pick up the checks on the 1st and the 15th, probably. While claiming these children as dependents and getting money for them as she's abandoning them and not giving them even food to get them through the day, let alone weeks or months at a time. Disgusting. I mean, we can all agree this is very vile and disgusting. Now, I made this a spooky show because this is the world we're living in. This is happening in Texas. Later streams throughout the day are going to get a little more fantastical. There is going to be a true crime unsolved mystery murder as one of them. And I'm not going to give away the other one, but it's a more mysterious, paranormal, missing people type kind of deal. Not missing 411, but a whole different phenomenon. So, several different genres of spooky Halloween themed shows throughout the day. This one started at 10:30. I'm assuming maybe like 1 p.m. And then maybe like 4 p.m. So that's 3 streams for the day. And then tonight, we'll probably go back to regular scheduled programming. Not programming, but you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm programming you through these spooky Sundays. But like a regular scheduled stream with some stories that I want to talk about. So the mother and her gangster wannabe boyfriend with family over everything tattoo. Just give me a second. Family over everything tattoo. What's that movie? I think it's Jennifer Aniston, and the guy's got the tattoo, and it's like spelled wrong. Does anyone know what I'm talking about here? What's that? What's that movie? What's that tattoo? Oh, it's like it's so bad. It's like a teenage like gangster tattoo. I think it's on his neck. Does anyone know what I'm talking about here? Like they're on like an RV trip. I think it's Jennifer Aniston and a guy from SNL. God damn you guys. No regrets. Yeah, no, no regrets. Yeah. He spelled it wrong. He had the no regrets tattoo. Yeah. So, family over everything tattoo were picked up by cops in Houston libraries, surfing internet stories about their crimes. And this is what these idiots always do. They know they're fucked, so they're watching constant coverage of what they did. Either they get off on it or feel like they're like, oh, we're a step ahead of the police because we're watching the news. Like, people like this are so fucking idiotic. The three siblings and the skeletal remains were found at this house. The Harris County medical examiner found 8-year-old Kendrick Lee suffered multiple blunt force injuries and died by homicide. So the skeletal remains was a murder. A 15-year-old boy called 911, saying his 8-year-old brother had been dead for a year and his remains were in the room next to his. Gloria Williams, the mother, 35, and her boyfriend, Brian Coulter, were arrested and charged by authorities on Tuesday. Williams has been charged with injury to a child by omission and tampering with evidence. Coulter has been charged with murder for allegedly beating Kendrick to death in November of 2020. So this wasn't a malnourishment. This wasn't the skeletal remains were because the woman's husband beat the child to death, left them there. Then they both abandoned all the children there. So they had to watch their sibling that was beaten to death decompose over a year to the point where it was skeletal remains. Again, a neighbor brought the siblings food, charged their cell phones. They found the odor. Homicide investigators are obviously all over this. Brian Coulter on Tuesday was arrested and charged with felony murder in the connection with the death of the 8-year-old child identified in court documents. Coulter was not present in court on Wednesday because he was undergoing a mental health evaluation. If these motherfuckers try to claim insanity, fuck these people. Lock them up. Throw away the key. You were mentally aware that these children were alone in the house. You were mentally aware that you beat the shit out of that kid, and you were mentally aware that you did your best to cover it up, because the wife or the the mother is charged with tampering with evidence, meaning she tried to hide the fact that the kid was beaten to death, and not even just other than that, not even reporting. I mean, just imagine. The mother knows that her boyfriend just beat her child to death. At that moment, she could have immediately called the police, had him arrested. CPS would come in, and these children would have had a better chance of living their life out. There was already a family member, by all accounts, from all interviews that I've seen, is a very sweet, very decent, very loving person that offered several times to take the children. But the mom would not give up those children because then they would have to give up the benefits that they were getting. Now, the 15-year-old son who had been caring for the two younger brothers, with the help of the neighbor who brought them food and charged their cell phone when the electricity on their home was cut, was the one that called 911. And I'll just give you a second to take a look. It's actually covering it up. I want to see what his neck tattoo says. Warrior. Warrior. So he has a warrior tattoo and family over everything. So these are the booking photos released by the Harris County Sheriff's Office showing Brian Coulter charged with beating to death his girlfriend's 8-year-old son. And Gloria Williams charged with obviously neglect, starving, tampering with evidence, a whole slew of charges. Um, he's never getting out of jail. I don't know if they're going to charge her with conspiracy to this murder. I don't have that information. Uh, they're blacked out, but you can see the siblings. The 8-year-old boy whose body was found decomposing next to his siblings is pictured for the first time. Um, he's the, I believe he's the bottom right or bottom left child. Let me just stop this because it'll play another video. Lucky Hex. I just completely misspelled that. He said you could look up the Brittany Gosney case. She killed a 6-year-old in an attempt to abandon a 6, 7, and 9-year-old. Yeah, don't have kids. Like, just don't have kids. Someone says, and their schools never reported their kids as truant. I don't even know if they were enrolled in schools at this point. Looking at the timeline, it could have been between years of school. So they could have said, oh, we're taking our kids out of this school to not alert anybody to this. I don't know how much pre-planning was done. These two don't look like your criminal masterminds. Obviously, a Nike sweatshirt and a Jordan tank top on our warrior family over everything tattooed thug here. Wigger, a wigger to the max for sure. Gloria Williams and her boyfriend were arrested and charged by authorities on Tuesday. We have that information. Yeah, here we go. Court documents obtained indicate that Williams was charged twice for failing to enroll her children in school. The Independent School District in 2019 and 2020 filed truancy papers against the siblings because two of them, Javion Kirkland and his older sister, were not attending school. The children were last enrolled May 2020. Both charges were latest. This is great. The charges were released, though, and dismissed because guess what? It's the COVID pandemic. Anything could happen. We're taking our kids out. It's the COVID pandemic. Anything you can blame on COVID. Smith, Kirkland's paternal grandmother, told Daily Mail that Williams and her children stayed with her for a time in 2014 while the boy's biological father was in jail. The grandmother ultimately asked Williams to leave after learning that the woman had been bringing various men over to the house, a decision Smith now regrets. The Gloria I knew would have never done this to her kids, but it looks like she did. I guess you never truly know someone. The image above shows a notice of removal of children left by the Texas Department of Child Services. According to the notice, state officials took custody of the three children on Sunday evening after police conducted a welfare check. So now these three kids are in the system. And I'm hoping, and I hope you guys are hoping as well, that a caring, loving family member can take custody of these children and they're not separated. They just lived through a year of being left without food, abandoned, possibly beaten during this time, but all stuck together. I do not want to see these kids separated from each other, because this is something they all share and all have to live with for life. And separating them to the point where maybe they couldn't even contact each other in the future, I think would be an injustice. And yeah, I wanted to thank Lucky Hex because he upped his donation on Patreon, which is very helpful. So thank you for doing that, buddy. I really appreciate that. If anyone does want to support the streams, shows, research, protests, Spooky Sundays, normal streams, any of that stuff, if you guys want to give financial support to the show, we have the option of Cash App, and we have the option of Patreon, which is a monthly support. Nothing's obligated, and nothing ever will be obligated. There'll never be a paywall to watch the content. But if you'd like to donate a couple of dollars for the multiple streams today, just in an aid to help the channel to kind of supplement the time put in. Don't worry, you guys don't need a suitcase. I'm not taking you on a guilt trip. I'm just saying if you guys want to support the channel, please consider a donation through Cash App or a monthly donation. You can do $1, $3, $5 a month, something like that. And it really is all going into everything. The computer should be here within a week. I know everything is moving slow with the post office. I'm sure the shipping is just taking longer than it normally would. Fringe Files is working on the flyers for the anti-mandate protest, which I'll be printing out. So any donations that come in are just along with, obviously, the money I make from my day-to-day job. They're just going towards stuff that has to do with the channel. So if anybody wants to help out, that's my spiel on that one. Recent social media posts that Williams has been referring to Coulter as her husband, and the two even got matching warrior tattoos. I'm trying to hold back the cringiness of the hypocritical family over everything tattoo when you beat your girlfriend's 8-year-old child to death with a bat, and then getting matching warrior tattoos. I mean, I know this is a sick story, but come the fuck on, man. Appeline Garner says this feels like reverse psychology. What? Oh, don't donate to me, so you're gonna don't. Whatever, man. It's everyone's personal choice to make a donation or not make a donation. The streams are still gonna be the same quality, the same amount, and the protest will still go on regardless if I make $1, if I make $1,000. But you're always known to make a weird comment Maybe you can ask if Pod Awful can come on for the 18th time. I gotta give a little bit back to you. But you do show up to every stream, so we do appreciate that you're here. But no, it's not reverse psychology. It's literally explaining how you could help out the channel and help me out in the process of it. But if it's something you don't want to do, and nobody that just one more thing about the whole thing. If you can't afford to do it, please don't do it. Like, if you can't afford to donate, don't donate. And for my loyal subs, I tell you guys this all the time. If you need help, you can always reach out to me and I'll do my best to help you guys out. So, the boyfriend Coulter's significant collection of body art also includes the words loyalty and family over everything, along with face tattoos depicting a cross and a dollar sign. His Instagram page, which was last updated in August, shows the murder suspect posing up in his over-the-top jewelry, listening to hip-hop, and making unintelligible comments. Okay. I gotta find his full name here. Yeah, I know his name is Coulter. I gotta look up his Instagram really quick. Yeah, I know a lot of people can't use PayPal. There's some countries that don't have it, and some people that took their money out of bank. I understand. I get it. This isn't about donations. I was just saying if you want to help the channel, that's how you can do it. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to do an Owen Benjamin P.O. box, you know? Let me see if I can find this guy's Instagram page. If it's still up. Uh, Joey Alice says, good man, Davey. Who else does that? Well, I don't pat myself on the back, but I don't know too many content creators that actually even, like, associate themselves with their quote unquote followers. Like, they don't, like, talk to them. So let me see if I can find his Instagram page. Obviously, they're just not going to put up, you know, Instagram. So I'm going to have to find it through a link here. Brian Coulter's Instavids show him slurring and boozing after murdering boy. Okay. I'm intrigued.
Look at my mother plate. This good, man. And look, man. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is. That's. Oh.
Oh no, I want that plate again. I wanted to check out the bling we had on this guy.
Yesterday, we received information concerning potential public safety impacts to malls and shopping centers.
I'm writing something in the chat right now. I don't know if the stream was frozen or what, but I'm gonna have to investigate this really quick. Maybe it's just behind. I don't know. Yeah, man in the mirror. Well, mirrors, Oculus, scrying mirrors, all have to do with Halloween.
across the region. As you all know, we take any and all information very seriously, and as we work to corroborate it, we have increased our police presence throughout the county.
So I guess there's multiple videos that are going to be played here.
Police say October 26th, the 54-year-old victim, Cherie Avarapali, was shot multiple times at his home in Plainsboro, New Jersey, about 30 miles from Bensalem. Investigators say 27-year-old Jakai Reed John.
So actually, it wasn't frozen. I was just a little retarded and didn't have the I didn't have it on the screen where you could see the bling from our friend here. Shout out to my man JT Birdman42, $10 donation through Cash App. He said he just wanted to say thanks. Pumpkin emoji. Thank you. So here's the bling bling.
Look at my mother like this good, man. And look, man. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is. That's. Oh.
So I just want to pause this next video that's gonna play. So you saw the bling. You saw what
Yesterday,
you saw what this guy's rolling with. Loyalty, warrior, family protector. Videos uploaded to his Instagram account appear to show him slurring his words and boozing after allegedly murdering an 18-year-old boy, leaving his remains with his abandoned siblings. They were arrested on Tuesday. I mean, look at this fucking guy. I mean, I'm not saying because, there's perceived rights in this country, but I'm just saying, like, you see someone like this, I don't know. Maybe just throw him in jail for the night and just figure out what the fuck's going on in his head. Maybe a psych veil. I mean, something's going on there. Like, but again, innocent till proven guilty. I understand. I don't want to change those rules. Oh, looking good. Taking those selfies. I don't even understand these tattoos. We have a crown. We got the dice. Family over everything. Matching warrior tattoos. Oh, let's see if they actually give the actual Instagram. That'd be a nice little nugget of information. I have way more. I got the interviews coming for you guys of the neighbors, the mom from jail. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. So I don't know if this is actually leading me to his Instagram page or it's just gonna fuck with my computer. Okay, no, it's just going to the sun.com, so there's no need to pull that up. Don't hyperlink something that says Instagram and then it's not the Instagram page. That's false advertising. Don't do that to me. I don't appreciate that. So, guys, the mother, she apologized from jail, guys. So, I mean, she apologized. So let's just forget about it. I checked on them, like every 2 weeks. And can I just say to any of these websites out there that have this big white fucking thing that covers their whole headline and the byline, what the fuck is this? Why are you putting this on? Like, I see websites like this all the time. Can you remove the white blob so I can fucking read what you're trying to tell me? I checked on them, like every 2 weeks. I'm sure those 2 weeks were the 1st and the 15th. Mother of abandoned children apologized from jail in exclusive. I'm guessing this is K Houston. So I think you had a stream issue there. Um, let's check the chat to make sure that it's back for everybody. I'll give a check really quick. Huh. It said it reconnected.